Welcome back to the 5280 Pitch, Women's Soccer at Altitude. I'm Kate Hansen. Well, if you listened to last week's episode, thank you for tuning in and bearing with me as I overcame my loss of voice after attending the Broncos game. And I was also a little bit under the weather. You might have noticed that I missed a good chunk of the schedule. Yes, I know it was just the first half of the schedule that we talked about, and I said that we were going to be talking about the second half of the schedule in today's episode, but we missed a big chunk of the first half of the schedule. I wasn't feeling great, guys, and I missed the month of May. Yep. So guess what? Today, it's gonna be May. We talked about the opening stretch. We walked through March and April and July. So we're going to talk about May today. And if you've been following along, you know what those early weeks are about. The introduction, the summit meeting the league, getting their first taste of what the competition actually demands. So let's talk about May, because May is different. Let's give May its own special episode. We're going to talk about the May schedule because they have some road games, they have some home games. May is where the introduction ends and the examination begins. And let's just jump right in. Because by the time we hit May, Denver is not new anymore. They've been tested. They've seen elite attacks and structured defenses and physical chaos. So now the question becomes, what did you learn, girls? This month is brutal. 5 matches. 4 of them on the road. And maybe that's why I chose to ignore it and just jump right over it altogether in last week's episode. Every single opponent brings a different problem to solve. And the very first one is Boston. But before we get into Boston too much, Boston still figuring themselves out, just like Denver. Houston brings volume and persistence. Orlando comes back, but this time at altitude. Utah's going to test your patience with pure physicality. And then Racing Louisville caps it all off by asking how you handle transition chaos when you are exhausted. Again, this is not about survival anymore. This is about proving you can adapt, proving you can execute when the game doesn't go your way, proving that the lessons from March and April actually stuck. So let's dive into May, folks, match by match, because this month, more than March and April, it tells you whether Denver FC is learning or if they're just enduring. So let's talk about the very first match, May 3rd, their away match at Boston Legacy FC. Yep, it's an early identity against another new peer to the NWSL. This one is interesting because Boston, like Denver, is an expansion team. They are brand spanking new. They're still figuring out who they are at this level. And let's think about that for a second. This is the only match in May where Denver's opponent is going through the exact same thing that they are. Both teams building chemistry. Hopefully, we've built some chemistry by now. We've got two months under our belt. Both teams establishing identity. Both teams learning the league week by week. What does that mean? It means that this match is defined by opportunity rather than inevitability. Both teams are going to get looks. Both teams are going to have moments. The question is, who is going to execute? For Denver, this road game becomes about something specific. Execution, not containment. Can the Summit turn defensive stops into controlled attacking sequences? Can Lourdes Bosch dictate tempo in midfield against a team that is still finding its rhythm? Can Ali Brazier and Nakari Garcia create danger on the counter when space opens up? Away from home, the emphasis here is clarity. No rush decisions, no forcing the game open unnecessarily. You choose your moments to press. You stay compact when you need to. This is a matchup where discipline can tilt the balance. And honestly, that's exactly what you want early in May, a road match where you're not just trying to stop an elite attack, you're trying to be the more composed team when neither side has everything figured out yet. Boston is going to test whether Denver can win the margins, whether Carson, Pickett, and Kaleigh, Kurtz can organize the back line without that veteran leadership helping them through every sequence, whether Abby Smith can command her box confidently in the first away match of May. This is peer versus peer, expansion versus expansion, and whoever looks more like a team, more like a complete team, not just a collection of talented individuals, walks away with confidence heading into the rest of the month. Up next is May 9th, away at the Houston Dash. This one is going to be volume, physicality, and control. Houston, this is a different problem entirely. Last season, Houston finished 10th with 30 points and an 8-12-6 record. Middle of the pack. But here's what those numbers don't tell you. Houston, they don't beat themselves. They make you earn the win. They took 168 shots last year. They put 80 of them on target. That is a 48% accuracy. And while that's not elite efficiency, it tells you something important. When Houston shoots, they mean it. But the real number, 181 tackles. That is sixth most in the league with a 63% success rate. Houston presses. They challenge. They make possession uncomfortable. For Denver, this road fixture centers on midfield control. And Bosch dictate the tempo instead of reacting to it, because Houston's approach tests defensive concentration like it is a requirement, not a choice. Keep in mind, we are still without Lindsey Heaps. So we are going to have a bit of a, I think that we are going to have a bit of a rotating midfield at this point, with Bosch being that center anchor. Turnovers become dangerous here, not because Houston's going to immediately finish every chance, but because of the repeated attacking waves. They will test you. They will wear you down. They'll force you to defend multiple sequences in quick succession. This match also is going to reinforce a reoccurring first half theme. Road games don't ask Denver to dominate. They ask them to manage. Can you stay organized when you don't have the ball? Can Pickett and Kurtz avoid giving Houston momentum through loose touches or panicked clearances? Can your midfield win enough duels to keep the game from tilting entirely into your defensive third? And this is where I think Abby Smith is going to become critical. Houston scored 27 goals last season, but allowed 39. They are going to give the Summit chances. The question is whether Smith can be the stabilizing force when Houston pushes numbers forward and leaves space behind. Houston is going to make this physical. They are going to make this uncomfortable. And the question for Denver is simple. Can you stay calm when the game refuses to settle? We finally get a home match against the Orlando Pride. We played Orlando back in March on the road in humidity against, again, one of the league's most dangerous attacks. And Orlando is tough. The script is going to be flipped now. Orlando won the league last year with 40 points. They scored 35 goals and allowed just 28. They are extremely efficient. They are clinical, and they have Barbra Banda. Banda led the entire league in shots on target last season, 35 in just 16 games. That's over 2 quality looks per match. And Orlando, as a team, put 129 shots on frame out of 261 attempts. That's 49% accuracy, best in the league. So let's be clear, Banda is still the focal point. Her statistical output, her efficiencies, she forces defensive lines to respect space immediately. None of that has changed from when we saw her back in March. But at home, Denver gains leverage. Pressure can be applied more selectively. because we're at home. Recovery becomes easier to sustain. Midfield support arrives faster. And late in the match, when legs get heavy, altitude starts doing its work. They're coming from sea level. We have that opportunity to use that mile-high advantage. This becomes a test for Pickett and Kurtz specifically. Can they handle Banda's vertical runs without stepping so high that they leave space in behind? Can they communicate through fatigue as Orlando probes and waits for mistakes? The question here isn't whether Orlando will create danger. The stats suggest that they will. The question is whether Denver can reduce the frequency of high-quality looks by controlling spacing and second balls more effectively than they could on the road. This match serves as a direct comparison point, not of opponents, but of Denver's growth. We will have a perfect comparison point to see where were they back in March and where are they now in May. Can you handle the same problems better now? Can you use the altitude advantage, the crowd, the familiarity to flip the dynamics? Again, we can't say the home field advantage because we will still not have our Centennial Stadium, but can you show that you learned something since that early March road trip? Because if you can, this becomes more than just a result. It becomes proof that the process is working. After this, we hit the road once again on March 23rd to head over for a Rocky Mountain rivalry against the Utah Royals. Let's talk about Utah, and I'm just going to say it. It's going to be ugly. Utah finished 12th last season with 25 points and a 6-13-7 record. They scored 28 goals and allowed 42. Not great numbers, but here's what matters. Utah led the entire league in one category: tackles. 345 of them, with a 68% success rate. That is not just defensive activity, that is identity. Utah's statistical profiles leans heavily towards disruptions, high tackle numbers, frequent duels, and a willingness to break rhythm at every opportunity. For Denver, this road match becomes less about flow and more about resilience. Can the Summit maintain composure when possession is constantly interrupted? Can attacking sequences survive repeated physical challenges without becoming rushed? Utah don't need to dominate the ball to influence a match. They rely on disruption. They make you earn every inch of space. They foul to stop counters. They crowd the passing lane. They make the game feel claustrophobic. This fixture tests Denver's ability to stay patient when the game resists structure. When you can't build through the midfield cleanly, when every touch is contested, when the referee's letting things go, the midfield is going to be extremely critical here. I think that missing Heaps is going to be huge. And who is going to step up and be that leader in her place? Who is going to be that physical presence in the middle? Who is going to be that veteran presence that will lead the team? And I think that right now, this will be a wonderful opportunity for our team to get that leader while she's gone. And for forwards like Brazier and Garcia, this becomes about movement without the ball, creating space through runs, dragging defenders out of position. You're not going to get time on the ball to create magic. We're not going to be able to see a whole bunch of fancy footwork against Utah. You are going to have to create it before the ball even arrives. You are not going to out-pretty Utah. You are not going to outpass them off the field. You are going to have to match their physicality without losing your tactical discipline. And honestly, that's a test every team in this league faces at some point. Utah just happens to be the one who makes it their entire identity. So, can Denver handle it? Can they grind out a result when the game refuses to be anything but a grind? We'll just have to wait and see on March 23rd at the Utah Royals. And then we hop on the plane again and head over to Racing Louisville. The end of May ends with Racing Louisville on the road after a month of nonstop travel and physical battles. Racing finished 7th last season with 37 points and a 10-9-7 record. Solid, middle of the road. They scored 36 goals and allowed 39. But here's what jumps out. Racing took 305 total shots. Most in the entire league, 305 shots, 124 on target. That is a ton of volume. That's persistence. That is a team willing to let games stretch and create chaos. Emma Sear scored 10 goals for them last year, and they have got attacking threat. But what defines Racing is their comfort in transition. They don't panic when possession flips. They wait for moments both to create danger and to exploit vulnerability. For Denver, the focus here is emotional regulation. Away from home, in a match where momentum can swing quickly, decision-making after turnovers becomes critical. Overcommitting up top, open space behind. Sitting too deep invites pressure. So this match caps a demanding road-heavy month by asking Denver to balance ambition with restraint, a reoccurring theme across these opening months. Can you stay smart when you're tired? Can Bosch and the midfield recognize the right moments to push and the right moments to consolidate? Can Pickett in the back line avoid giving Racing the transitions that they thrive on? Because Racing, they don't need to dominate you to beat you. They need you to make one or two poor decisions in key moments. And after the month that Denver's about to have, 4 road matches, physical battles with Houston and Utah, managing Orlando's elite attack at home, those poor decisions become more likely. And this is a mental and physical endurance test disguised as a soccer match. So if Denver can navigate it, if they can stay composed after everything that May has thrown at them, well, then they will walk into June with something more valuable than points. They will walk in with belief. And I mean, let's just zoom out for a moment. Because if by the time that if the calendar turns out from May, the Summit's first half has asked a set of very specific questions. Can they defend under volume? Houston and Racing tested that, most likely. Can they manage efficiency-driven attacks? Orlando, most likely, tested that. Can they handle physical disruption? They faced Utah. March, April, May is where you find out if the lessons stick, if the patterns start to solidify, who the leaders are on the team, if Pickett and Kurtz are becoming a reliable partnership, if Smith is growing into the kind of goalkeeper who keeps you in matches when things get uncomfortable. It's not about perfection these first 3 months. It's about progress. Can you handle the same problems better? Can you recognize situations faster? Can you make fewer unforced errors? That is what March, April, and May asks. And then comes June. And honestly, June feels like a gift. After a road-heavy opening, March, April, May, March's introduction, April's variety, and May's gauntlet, June functions less as a thematic chapter and more as a reset point. By this stage, Denver have seen multiple attacking profiles, volume from Racing in Houston, efficiency from Orlando, possession with San Diego, physicality from Utah. They've seen it all. And now the task becomes consolidation. And June isn't about novelty. It's about whether lessons stick when the calendar stops feeling urgent and starts to feel routine. Training weeks matter more. Rotation decisions matter more. This is where habits either stabilize or quietly erode heading into the most demanding stretch of the season. So think about it. You've just gone through 2.5 months of constant adjustment, new opponents, new environments, new problems every single week. June is where the team is going to get to take a breath, where you let the tactical work settle, where you stop reacting and start refining. Can you turn those early lessons into automatic responses? Can you make the adjustments that need 3 touches to figure out in March happen by 1 touch in June? I mean, this isn't the glamorous work. This is not the headline grabbing. But it's essential, because when the summer density hits, when home matches start stacking up and the league table starts tightening, you need to be operating from muscle memory, not from conscious thought. And June gives Denver that space, that chance to breathe, that opportunity to consolidate. And if they use it well, if they come out of June sharper, more connected, more automatic in their responses, then the first half will have done exactly what it needed to do. So that's May. They get the month of June off. I already talked about July in last week's episode, and that's the first half of the Denver Summit's inaugural season. And look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The stretch is brutal. 4 road matches in May alone, opponents who all bring very different problems. Houston's expansion growing pains, Houston's 281 tackles, Orlando's league best efficiency, Utah's 345 tackles, Racing's 305 shots. Here's the thing. That's exactly what an expansion team needs. You don't want to have an easy first half. You want to have the exposure. You want challenges. You want to see every style that the league can throw at you, so that by the time July hits, nothing surprises you anymore. Ready for the home heavy summer, ready for the altitude advantage to really kick in, ready for Heaps to come home to lead with authority, ready for Pickett and Kurtz to anchor the defense that's seen it all, ready for Smith to make the saves that turn draws into wins, ready to start turning those hard-earned lessons into results. So as we look ahead to the second half of the season, which we will talk about next week, as we start thinking about July's home gauntlet and August's density, remember that everything starts right here. Thanks for hanging with me on the 5280 pitch. Make sure to subscribe, make sure to like, make sure to leave a review, make sure to follow me on social media. If you're not subscribed to the newsletter yet, be sure to head over to the 5280pitch.com, sign up for the newsletter. Next time, we are going to dive into that summer stretch and talk about what happens when this team finally gets to settle in for the summer stretch with a full team. Until then, thanks for being here with me on the 5280 pitch. Stick with me, stick with this team, and let's keep building this match by match, moment by moment.